Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to a video in which I actually bother to answer some questions that people have asked me. So for those of you who are not aware, this is my Final Fantasy XIV character, Percival Tachyon. Yeah, I know, if you're even vaguely familiar with some Insomniac games, you might have a sense of familiarity here, but you know, I'm a massive Insomniac games fanboy and I don't apologise for that. And I'm an adorable little Lalafell Dragoon at the moment, because yay. So yeah, I'm just going to wander around. Gives you a chance to look at Final Fantasy XIV, I guess, as we answer some of these questions. So I got a few questions from people, and well, I'm just going to start wherever it seems the most appropriate and work my way through. But in advance, thank you to all those people who did send in questions. It's nice to see what people wanted to ask, I guess. So, to kick off proceedings, we are going to start with, and I apologise if I mispronounce anyone's name, ITZ Maj. I'm just going to call you Maj for short. Sorry about that, but yeah, I don't want to keep messing up people's names. Basically, he wanted to ask, how did I find the game? How did I find World of Tanks? I assume you mean how did I physically find it? How did I come across the thing? For that, you would have to blame Loki's dad. Anyone who doesn't know, Loki is the online name for my fiance. Yay! And one Christmas, we were visiting. I think it was Christmas 2012, but don't quote me on that. I was still doing my PhD at the time, I do remember that. We visited and I noticed him playing a computer game that looked quite fun. He kind of has a liking for all things historical, World War II related. If we're honest, he's a bit of a big nerd. But to the point that Loki organised the purchase of a replica lightsaber for him for his birthday, and he was like a 10-year-old in a sweet shop. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, so he was playing what turned out to be World of Tanks. I thought it looked quite fun, so I downloaded it when I got home, got a bit obsessed with it over the Christmas holidays, played far too much of it in a short period of time, and I'm still playing it 4 years later. I don't play it as much as I once did. I just don't have the time. But I do still play it and I do still enjoy it, so that's how I came across it. Also, and this was after I started playing the game myself, noticed that there are some adverts popping up on various websites for the game, but that's a separate issue. What am I actually doing here with Percy? Oh yeah, I was going to go and see the botanist person. So yes, that is how I found the game myself. If the question is, how do I find it, as in do I like it or not, we're going to come on to that in a second. The short version is, well, yeah, obviously I do like it because, whoops, wrong menu, I have played it quite a lot at the end of the day. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for the question, Maj. Thank you for kicking us off. Second, we're going to move on to Trilloc Boy Watson. He asked, will I revisit some tank reviews that I have done in the past that by now are a little bit outdated? The short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is yes, but I don't know how long it will take. So it takes... there are a lot of machines in the game. It takes a little while to put those reviews together, and I know certainly some of my earlier ones, the sound quality isn't very good and the information in them is outdated, and actually I recently released a 1.12 review that has been made almost completely obsolete within about a week, but there we go. So yes, I will redo them when I get round to it. It just all takes a little bit of time, unfortunately. But thank you for the question, Trilloc Boy, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to Green Cactus now. Green Cactus, his question was just War Thunder. Just War Thunder. I guess interpret that in whatever way I see fit. So, yeah, War Thunder. For those who don't know, War Thunder is another game where you go around in historical... Well, initially it was aircraft in the case of War Thunder. Where am I even going? Rather than tanks. But you go around and you... In many ways, the game is quite similar to World of Tanks. It's made by Gaijin Entertainment. Which I believe are an Eastern European company, but don't quote me on that. I might be wrong. So I'm going to interpret that question as War Thunder, what do I think of it? Do I like it? Etc. Well, yes and no. So War Thunder is a game that claims to be more historically accurate than World of Tanks, which, if we're going to be honest, doesn't really take much. Many things in World of Tanks are very definitely not historically accurate, and so, you know, something more historically accurate than that, yeah, not difficult. But that doesn't mean that it is completely historically accurate. It has machines in it that never really existed. So, you know, do bear do bear that in mind. But it doesn't have hit points, for example. It's just done on module damage. The damage is done on module damage. If you set someone's ammo rack off, it's going to go bang and it's going to burn, and, well, that's you knocked out. Sorry about that. So, do I like it? Yes, I really like the aerial combat. I think War Thunder's aerial combat stuff is way better than, for example, World of Warplanes, which I think's junk, personally. However, I don't think it does tank combat very well. Because, I guess, of that realism thing, you can very easily be one-shotted if you are playing War Thunder Ground Forces, as it's called. Because someone just needs to hit you, shoot through your like driver's port, set off your ammo rack, and woohoo, that's you squelch. Which isn't very fun, let's be honest. If you spend 5 or 10 minutes maybe getting into position, the maps are much larger in War Thunder, so it takes you a long time to get anywhere. If you spend, say, 10 or 15 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes getting into position only for your tank to be one-shotted as soon as you get there, well, if I'm going to be brutally honest, that's not very fun. And so that's a problem, and I'm too low level for that, whoops. So I really like the aerial combat, not really keen on the ground combat. The nice thing about War Thunder is you get basically different difficulty settings, based upon how historically accurate you want to go, basically. You can either go arcadey or you can go really historically accurate, which gives different people a different flavour of the game depending on exactly what they want, which I think is quite a nice touch. I think that's quite a nice way of doing things, so I commend them for that. But the flip side is that makes balancing machines really difficult. You know, if you've got, you know, because you want those different machines to be balanced regardless of the context in which they're played, which can be very problematic, as they're played in, you know, if you're playing in arcade, where you might be able to see the outlines for the targets you're going to shoot at, then that's a very different environment from playing in realistic, where you don't get those outlines and you're relying on whether you can actually see them with your eyes through foliage and whatnot. But so it makes balancing machines in that game basically a joke. There is very little balancing realistically, in my opinion. I'll be interested to see how they deal with the warship side, the naval side. Maybe it'll be good and I'll like it and I'll play it. Maybe it won't and I won't. I haven't actually played War Thunder in quite a long time, because I've found it, basically I played Ground Forces when it came out and just got so annoyed with it. that I haven't really revisited the game in a while, and I really should. So that was a really rambly answer to a kind of pseudo question. I hope you didn't find it too tediously boring, but thank you very much, Cactus, for the question. Gonna move now to Owen Pritchard. Owen asks, do I have a favourite map and a tank that I like to play on that map? Again, World of Tanks context, I assume, for anyone who is pondering. Do I have a favourite map? That's a really good question, I don't know. I certainly have maps that I don't like, or I have least favourite maps. Some of you may be aware I really don't like the Abbey map. I don't really like any map that forces you into one of a series of corridors. I find them frustrating, boring, annoying, unimaginative. The list of words goes on, but list of descriptions goes on. So Abbey is a prime example of a map that I really don't like. I also don't like Stalingrad, because that is almost completely the opposite. Instead of there being corridors as you get in Abbey, it's just basically this uniform matrix map where there are no strategically important positions. Your positioning is almost completely irrelevant. There removes a large element of the strategy to the game, and again, I don't actually like that. So there's a couple of maps I don't like. What about maps I do like? I wouldn't want to play every game on them, but with Wargaming's insistence that every map they bring out has to have large tracts of city and corridors and has to be mirrored, I do actually find playing where the hell is that person? Oh, they're up there. I do actually find playing maps like Prokhorovka, which are quite open, a nice change of pace. I'm not saying that they're my favourite maps, but just that I like to play them given what the rest of the maps, or how the rest of the maps have developed with time. But in terms of favourite maps, I'm not really sure if I have a favourite, to be honest. Are there tanks I like playing on them? Well, I do actually quite like my tanks with gun depression. So, I really like the Centurion, like the Comet, love the Cromwell. I also like... Whoops, I just got aggroed. Run away. I also like the what's it called? Panzer 58 Mutz, for example. That's a very nice machine. And there's a lot of others that I do like. I actually quite like a pretty wide range of different tanks, and I don't really have a specific favourite. Aesthetically, I think I think my favourite tanks to look at are either high-tier Chinese tanks, so we're talking things like the WZ-120, or the British mediums, higher tier, usually British mediums, because you look at a Centurion and that just is kind of exactly what people think of when they think of a tank. It's the, I don't know, visually there's just something about it I really like. Conqueror is another one. I do rather like the look of the Conqueror. So there's a few machines I do like. I'm not sure I really have a favourite per se. I think there's a lot of variety in the game and I enjoy that variety. And there's a few maps. I mean, I enjoy most of the maps depending on what machine I'm driving, I guess. So it's not like I have a favourite map per se. But as I say, I do have some I don't like, and now I'm repeating myself again and again and again. So let's move onward. I think there's one more question for me to answer. Well, I say one more question. Questions from one more person. Let's phrase it like that. We've got Tonelli. Hurrah! What has he got? So, first question, and this is of course a very serious question. What do I think is the best looking Soviet tier 10 medium tank? It's a running joke. I, like Tonelli, like the aesthetics, the looks of the Object 430. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it that looks like it means business. The T62A and the 140 are fine, but I like the Object 430. And then of course I guess you have things like the Object, can't even remember what it's called, the the Clan Wars gift reward tank thing. But of the regular ones, I like the 430 the most. And what do I think about the current state of World of Tanks? Am I looking forward to the Great Rebalance, as some people coin it? Alright, so I still enjoy the game. Let's start there. And I think it is actually a very good game. If I didn't enjoy it and I didn't think it was a very good game, I wouldn't bother playing it, and I certainly wouldn't bother making YouTube videos about it. So, you know, there's that, bear in mind. So I do like it. There are many things that have changed since I started playing. As I alluded to earlier on, I've been playing this game for about 4 years now. And there are things that have definitely changed. I remember back in the days when artillery were a scourge. Not at their worst. So when I started playing, the 5 artillery per team cap had been introduced. But artillery were rather accurate, and it was very easy to do very well in artillery. I still remember doing 3,000 damage in a tier 5 match in my tier 3 SU-26. You know, when you're dealing 3,000 damage in a tier 3 in a tier 5 match, yeah, that might be a little bit OP, please nerf. And I remember getting regularly one-shot by artillery when I started playing. So artillery has had its teeth filed, which on the one hand I do think is a good thing. I do think it was over the top. On the other hand, I think they've filed its teeth in the wrong way, I guess. That's what I'm getting at. Oh, for goodness sake, go away. So, personally, I think artillery in its current state is bad. Both bad in terms of it doesn't do much, and also just bad for the game because it mitigates how much difference you can make with your own ability and your own skill, and it maximises the amount of impact that just sheer blind luck has. Please don't tell me I'm going to die here. I really should have protected myself right at the beginning. So, yeah, that is my opinion on it. What else has changed since I started playing? I mean, generally speaking, I think most of the changes that have been introduced are a good thing. I think the game is better now than it was when I started, personally. But as with everything in life, I guess, that does come with caveats. You know, so I think some of Wargaming's balancing decisions and some of the premium tanks they've decided to release are bewildering, to say the least. You know, the Prius, why on earth, the FV4202P, why on earth that was ever released in the state it was, I have no idea. Why it's still naff after it's been buffed, I don't know. Who thought it was a good idea to buff the 112 after they remove it from the shop? I don't really know that either. That seems a bit perplexing. Wargaming's whole attitude to whether or not they can or can't buff premium tanks I find frustrating and annoying. But these are not things that have changed since I started playing. These are just Wargaming things. But I do generally think the game has improved with time. So the current state of the game, there are things I don't like. I don't like the increasing corridorification, if that's a word, of maps. Which, you know, the game at the moment, although I think it's better than it was when I started playing, to a greater or lesser extent, it's play heavy tanks, medium tanks, or go jump off a bridge, which I don't like. You know, light tanks at the moment don't really have a proper role. Artillery at the moment is in complete need of a rework. Tank destroyers at the moment are... they've just... I'm not really sure what I think about tank destroyers at the moment, to be honest. Those very, very fragile paper tank destroyers don't really do it anymore. You need to have a bit of armour or a bit of something, but those tank destroyers that do have a bit of something are still fairly good. Generally speaking, you're probably still better off in a medium or a heavy tank. So I think that's a bit of a shame. And in a way, I am looking forward to a big rebalance because I think there is a lot of rebalancing that needs to be done. However, on the flip side, I don't want Wargaming to just pander to what, you know, a lot of people, not all, but a lot of players just seem to want the game effectively dumbed down. You know, oh no, my heavy tank is being penetrated by that tank destroyer over there. And rather than learning, okay, let's not go to this position then so that tank destroyer can't shoot me, they just go, oh, that must mean tank destroyers are overpowered. Let's just remove that bush location so they can't use it. You know, stuff like that. I'm not the world's biggest tank destroyer fan, don't get me wrong. But I do think some people are far too high. Anyway, that's kind of a little by the by. There are many things I would like Wargaming to introduce, and there are some things I hope they don't. So, for example, I have no interest in a skill-based matchmaker for regular random games. If they want to introduce that as a separate game mode, I'd be okay with that, and effectively you get that with the team battles. But personally, I like the fact that random battles, the matchmaking is, well, random. I think that's the fairest way to do it. I don't think you should be penalised just for being good at the game. That's my personal opinion. And the team sizes of 15 are large enough that, generally speaking, it's still relatively difficult to have that much of an impact on the game in a platoon. I mean, if you want games where people in a platoon equivalent have a ridiculous impact on the game, and that has skill matchmaking, you just need to look at the MOBAs around. It might be Smite, it might be League of Legends, it might be Dota. You know, if you get a team of people who are effectively in the equivalent of a platoon, and there are 5 of them, that means they are the entirety of their team, and they're on voice comms, and they're experienced players, and they're against you, it's very difficult to do well in that scenario. Let's put it that way. So there are things that I would like changed, but generally speaking, I do think the game is in a better state than it was. Wargaming are never going to please everyone, and people are always going to complain and moan regardless of what they do. So that's my opinion on that. And there we go. They were the questions people threw at me, so there are the answers. I hope you guys found it vaguely interesting and didn't find my little Percival wandering around in the background to be too distracting. So there we go. Hope you like the answers. There they are, and I will catch you guys in another video. Have fun doing whatever it is you're doing. Ciao, ciao.